Steve Harvey's ex is causing show once more. She's been attempting to get additional money from him and even pursued his ongoing wife Marjorie yet. Is wedding simply a severe ex, or has Steve truly violated her? Fans are partitioned on this dangerous quarrel. With some colloquialism, Mary needs to continue on and others, safeguarding her against Steve's new cash life. Figure out the succulent subtleties in this video. Hey everybody, I'm Leah. And today we discuss the continuous fight between Steve Harvey and his ex Mary. While Steve has continued on and constructed a fruitful vocation and family, with his ongoing wife Marjorie, Mary keeps on standing out as truly newsworthy with her endeavors to get additional cash and consideration from her ex. Regardless of having a child together, Mary is by all accounts unfit to relinquish her past with Steve and continue on with her very own business. Yet is there more going on? Tales have been flowing that Mary's fixation on Steve might be because of a mystery she's been clutching for a really long time. Might it at some point be that Steve has violated Mary here and there, making her look for vengeance and consideration? So what occurred? In spite of Steve Harvey's enormous accomplishment as a big name in America, his ex Mary Lee has blamed him for transforming her life into a residing bad dream and causing her massive aggravation and experiencing while Steve's separation. Mary wasn't neighborly. The subtleties of their division. Just a short time afterward, for instance, it was uncovered that Steve went behind Mary's back with his ongoing companion Marjorie, among other undesirable subtleties. In spite of the fact that it was clear that Mary was profoundly harmed and irritated by their detachment and Steve's disloyalty, she has as of late stood in opposition to different wrongdoings Steve carried out while they were together, expressing that existence with him successfully obliterated her life. Steve Harvey and Mary Lee were hitched for almost 10 years, yet things went bad for the entertainer when he chose to make changes in his day-to-day existence and seek after Marjorie, the lady of his fantasies. The separation procedures between Steve Harvey and Mary Lee were scandalous for their unpleasant and bitter nature, with the two players engaged with a public and untidy debate. While it was not completely Mary's shortcoming reports, course, that Steve was paying the media to post uncomplimentary anecdotes about his ex, portraying her as a ravenous, fixated, and distrustful person who needed everything from her rich ex Mary, purportedly requested millions from Steve, accepting that she merited a huge portion of his resources in their separation repayment, as well as a piece of his future satire profit. Given her instrumental job in his ascent to popularity anyway, as per court records, Mary got undeniably less in the repayment than what was at first detailed in the media. Steve Harvey's legitimate group offered Mary only $1,000 each month in kid backing, and she was not permitted to hold any of the property or business possessed by Steve. As of late, Mary has approached to talk about the shamefulness of her separation repayment and the puzzling conditions encompassing the procedures from her and Steve having a similar separation attorney to her being denied admittance to her undivorced records, and the repayment cash had me ousted from our home anyway. This was not by any means the only difficulty that Mary looked in her life. Mary Lee Harvey's declaration uncovers the profundities of the effect Steve Harvey had on her life, which went a long ways past simply a question of cash. Steve took everything from me, she uncovered. I got removed from our house. He's turned my child against me. And he took my abundance. Mary's endeavors to find equity were frequently purposeless, as she felt that Steve had decided his cash could influence any choice made in support of himself. She was additionally deserted by loved ones in the result of the separation. Is that I don't approach my child. The fella from the separation was a horrible encounter for Mary. She lost her riches and status, as well as her own connections and expert. Standing on top of all that, she lost her child Winton, as the court considered her an unsuitable mother and conceded Steve full guardianship. Mary's significant trouble at being isolated from her child is obvious in a way that would sound natural to her consistently. I awaken Winton is at the forefront of my thoughts the entire day consistently. I cry over the course of the day, since I feel like someone came to in and hauled Winton out of me. That is the way I feel. Since we were exceptionally close regardless of the difficulties, she confronted Mary has kept on taking a stand in opposition to her encounters, wanting to focus on the treacheries. She believes she experienced the fallout of Mary Lee's separation from Steve Harvey. Has been turbulent most definitely. Mary has confronted fights in court with Steve. And notwithstanding losing every one of them, she stays beset and despondent. Some have even gone to the extent that calling her psycho, and fanciful pundits have brought up that Steve's most memorable spouse, Marcia, hasn't uttered a word pessimistic about him or requested guardianship of their 3 youngsters, scrutinizing Mary's conduct conceivable, Mary's fixation on finding equity and making Steve pay for his activities, and keeping her from continuing on with her personal business. Her proceeded with ID as Steve Harvey's ex, and the yearning for affirmation from him might be adding to her misery anyway. Mary should relinquish what is happening for the good of her own and figure out how to push ahead, while Steve and his ongoing wife Marjorie have been on their own excursion starting around 2008. Mary requirements to zero in on her own prosperity and figure out how to recuperate from the past harassing from Steve from his group. Mary still up in the air to take what she accepts is her legitimate offer from her ex Steve Harvey. She guarantees that Steve hurt during their marriage and after their separation, bringing about the deficiency of her child, her organizations, and her euphoria on Mother's Day, regardless of being a daily existence. Mary guarantees that Steve has killed her from the back to front. Mary needs her VIP status and abundance back, yet after the separation, she was cut off from her previous lavish way of life. According to Steve Harvey's own assertions, he is prepared to have to deal with any further penalties his ex might bring against him, and will shield himself with the help of his best legal advisors. He has continued on from the past and wishes to avoid Mary, particularly assuming she keeps on bringing pessimism into his life. It is miserable to observe what is happening. It is entirely expected for one accomplice to feel abandoned and disengaged from their past way of life after a separation, tolerating that Steve has continued on and zeroing in on reconstructing her own life is by all accounts a test for Mary. According to a philosophical point of view, the comic being referred to sees his continuous fight as a vital obstacle in his excursion towards progress and distinction. He accepts that conquering life's difficulties and temporary obstacles are a basic piece of making progress anyway. He sees his acts as a prevention to his joy and progress. As he once said, disappointment implies you've presently taken in another significant illustration that pushes you one bit nearer to progress. In spite of this standpoint, many individuals feel that the jokester's ex ought to continue on from the past and permit him to carry on with his life in harmony with his ongoing accomplice and enormous family, as per them his ongoing accomplice.